Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Discussing Digital. Today, I'm discussing digital marketing with Kimba Cooper-Martin of Kimba Digital. Kimba, would you like to introduce yourself and your business to start with?
Thank you, Rob. Yeah, I would love to. So, I'm Kimba. My business is Kimba Digital, and despite the name Kimba Digital, we are a gamification consultancy. The reason we're called Kimba Digital is because I used to run a digital marketing agency. And over time, like most people do, you kind of niche into the things that you're good at and that you enjoy and that are getting the best results. And so the business has changed over the years, but now we focus entirely on gamification. Do you think it would be useful for me to explain what gamification is?
Yeah, and let's do that now. As you slid straight into that into conversation, definitely go for it.
Yeah, I think people might not have heard the term, but once I explain it, and maybe if we discuss it a bit, you will realize that you see it everywhere. All the big businesses are using it, lots of small businesses are using it now. It is a game changer, excuse the pun, for marketing, for business, for motivation. So throughout history, we've all played games from conkers to cricket, from hopscotch to tiddlywinks, Fortnite, any board game, any sport, any of these things. They all have tools and techniques built in to compel you, to motivate you to keep playing, even when you're bored, even when you're frustrated, because you want to get to that next level, or you want to beat your opponent, or you want to get, we want to beat that end of level boss. And so gamification is just taking those tools and techniques from the game world and putting them into non-game settings. So my background is in digital marketing. It's in online courses, online launches, online memberships, social media. And so those are the places that I use gamification to help my clients to get better results. So helping online course creators to do things like get people to engage more with the content or finish the course, helping membership owners to improve retention, get more testimonials, to help social media audiences to get more engagement, all that kind of stuff. But you can use gamification for pretty much anything that is a motivational issue. So if you are procrastinating about it, you can probably gamify yourself to do it. If you've got a team that aren't maybe reaching targets, you could probably gamify them to achieve that as well. But what I focus on, as well as those specific niche areas, is ethical gamification. So gamification for the win-win. So figuring out what it is that your audience, or your players, as we like to call them, want to get out of the situation, and trying to help gamify it in a way that they get something out of it as well as you. It's very common for people to hear gamification and think, well, isn't that just manipulating people into doing something they don't want to do? And while, you might see examples of that, and there are examples of that, I'm not going to argue that there isn't, because there definitely are. I wouldn't help somebody to do that. And also, most people aren't stupid. They're going to see gamification for the sake of it, or that's manipulating them, and they're just not going to take part. So, yeah, this is what we do with gamification. A lot of people assume that it's just making things fun, but everyone finds different things fun, and it's about helping to motivate people to take action.
Yeah, that's really good. And actually, in some ways, that leads quite neatly into one of the things we were talking about beforehand, how you used gamification, I'm guessing, to motivate yourself with a 30-day campaign, even though you didn't think it was a campaign at the time, for doing reels and videos, which you've now been nominated for an award for. So do you want to talk a bit more about that? Because I mean, it's just a nice flow into that, really, as part of it.
Perfect. Okay. So yes, it's really weird, isn't it, when you do marketing? You just kind of do what you do. You don't really think about it very much. You just, this will make good content. This will be good to sell X, Y, and Z. Let's give this a go. So I was I'm pretty consistent when it comes to putting content out. I'm good at putting out static posts, blog posts, emails go out regularly. And something my friends do say about me is like, how are you so consistent? You always put things out on time. But I'd realized that short form video was becoming more and more prevalent. And I was putting the odd video out, but I was being a bit lackadaisical about it, let's say. There was, we discussed this before we went on the podcast. There was a bit of a block there. I don't know why. I do video all the time. I speak, live all the time, and I do longer videos all the time. But short form videos, for some reason, were just a big issue for me. I guess I built them up in my head as something that was going to take a long time, or I wasn't going to be interesting enough, or, all these things that people say to me when they're talking about gamification. I was saying about this. So I thought, right, what can I do? So I thought I can gamify myself to do this, because this is a motivational issue. This is something I'm procrastinating on. So let's set myself a 30-day challenge. And to make it a bit more fun, let's pair it with something else that I'm not doing as consistently as I would like. You know what it's like when you're in business. You end up on the treadmill of working all the time. Maybe you do social stuff and then you forget about self-care. So
Yeah.
I thought, let's pair it with self-care. So I set myself a challenge. I thought I'm going to do 30 days of, I think in the first video, it didn't even have a name for it. I said 30 days of self-care and gamification videos, something like that. It was really long-winded and really terrible.
Yeah,
But
so I've watched that one. I can't remember, but I know it was quite a long title you gave it.
yeah, it was really long. And but I knew that if I didn't put that video out there before I had a name, before I had a concept, before I knew what it meant, that it wouldn't get done.
Yeah.
So I put that out there for external accountability. In the gamification world, we talk about extrinsic motivation. So it's an extrinsic motivation. I've said I'm going to commit to this 30 days. And I said in that first video, help me name it. And so for 30 days, including the weekends, I had to put out a short form video. And in that series, I thought I can use this to educate people about how I'm gamifying myself to do this, give them some tips and tricks on gamification, educate my audience about the fact that gamification isn't just a big, 3D game environment. It is something as simple as really low quality, rubbish, off the cuff, short form videos that help me to learn how to be better at doing this, help me to get some self-care in, and can be done for free and easily, really. So I taught lots of little bits along the way, and I kind of hid things in them in a way. If people were really watching, they would see some of the gamification techniques I was using to game myself. And yes, I was very surprised. Last week, I got an email saying I'd been nominated for an award for my gamified goals campaign, that's how you'd find it on social media. Pretty much any platform, search for hashtag gamified goals and you'll find it. It's weird because it wasn't like successful in, like, it didn't go viral. It wasn't like a huge lead generator, but it was really good for educating my existing audience and also learning a lot for myself about how I can make short form video a bit easier, how I can be quicker about it, and how I can do it every day if I need to. It was a lot of fun and it's a bit silly. And I'm pretty sure I've got a couple of speaking gigs off the back of it as well, which is always nice.
That's very nice. And so just on that, I mean, there's a couple of things. One, we sort of like didn't really talk about what platforms you use. And the truth is, like, the list you provided, you use pretty much every platform. So it'd be interesting to kind of say, I only look for it on Instagram, but is it on a lot of others as well?
Gamified Goals is on YouTube Shorts, Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, TikTok.
Okay.
And I think I put it on Threads as well. But I mean, it's a short form video, right? So this format works everywhere. And it works particularly well on the platforms that are designed for short form video, but it works well on the others as well, because that's what people are used to seeing now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like Pinterest specifically, it's one that people think, oh, it's just for static content. Do you know what? Those short form videos did so much better than any static content I've ever put on there. They're much more engaging, they're much more interactive. So yeah, I think it would be surprising to some people, but it is a good place to put short form content.
Yeah. I'm going to come back to Pinterest in a minute, because we sort of discussed that beforehand, because I think you're the first guest that's really been sort of talking about Pinterest and having a lot of success with it. So I'd like to explore that in a minute. Before we go there, it'd be interesting. You said as part of that challenge, you actually learnt and some techniques for making short form videos much easier. Would you be willing to share a couple of those with people that are watching or listening?
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's very easy to think I have to do talk to camera. And one of the great things about pairing it with daily self-care was that I could record myself doing things like putting on a face mask, doing my nails, whatever, that B-roll content, and store it up. So like, it was my challenge. If I wanted to batch it, nobody was going to know. As long as the videos went out daily, it's fine. So obviously we know to batch content, but it really made me batch that content because I had to get those videos out every day. The second one was that some platforms are better at creating subtitles than others. Instagram subtitles do not like my name. They do not like gamification. They do not like a lot of stuff because I've got a British accent. TikTok was much better. So I found that I could create the video. I would use just an app on my phone to edit it. And then I would put it on TikTok first to get the captions. Then I would click save to phone before I published it, and then I would have the raw video with captions that I could share everywhere else. And I could do a few of those and save them. Something else I learned is that I'm really rubbish at doing voiceovers. So like I'm really good at being chatty like this. I'm really good at interacting with people, doing long form videos, but having to do a voiceover that includes what this video is about, who I am, why you should care, like some tips and tricks and stuff in 30 seconds is really hard.
Yeah.
That was the hardest part for me, was doing the voiceovers. And so
Okay.
you'll see that by the end, me explaining what the challenge is, why I'm doing it, who I am, is so much nicer, clearer, succinct than it was at the beginning of the challenge, because I just over the time got better at it. It's still
Right.
not perfect. And if I was to run that challenge again, I would probably have an even better way of introducing by the end of it. But one of my business friends actually said to me, she was like, you're wasting so much of those videos introducing yourself. Like, you would get much better reach, you would get much better engagement if you could make that more succinct, or if you could do some of it at the end. So I was experimenting all the way through as I was posting. But yeah, I think you've got to figure out for you what it is that you're struggling with and what tools you need to use to make it better. But yeah, I think that major one for me was using the captioning tool on TikTok and downloading it first to put
Okay.
everywhere else.
Brilliant.
Captions everywhere else are not great.
Yeah, that's really, really good to know, because as you know, we discussed beforehand, I've still got a bit of a block with doing short form video. So even if nobody else who listens or watches this takes anything away, that's a huge tip for me. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's now for me to go and put that back into practice. So let's kind of link back a bit. As I said, you also mentioned the success you had on Pinterest, and as I said, not many people, or not many people that I've spoken to. Maybe that's just because I don't speak to people that are on Pinterest, because I'm not on it very much. So it'd be really good to know how you're finding at Pinterest to really work for you, because for me it felt like a few years ago everyone was talking about it and having a lot of success with it, and then a lot of people that I know of small business owners have maybe stopped using it. So it'd be really good. But you mentioned some of the real benefits that you're finding from it.
I think it's really easy to dismiss a platform like Pinterest. I know that for a fact. I will, like when I was planning my wedding a few years ago, I used Pinterest to plan the wedding, like all of the looks, all that kind of stuff. I use Pinterest when I'm planning anything crafty, anything garden based. But you might think, well, what about business? And I found somebody that I knew was using it for their business and teaches it as well. I don't know if they teach it anymore, so I won't mention names. But I said to them, like, is it worth me doing? And they said that it's really, really good for website traffic. So if you've got free stuff, so everybody's, you know, if you're doing digital marketing, you'll have lead magnets, you'll have a free Facebook group. You know, we've got a free Facebook group. Those things do really well on Pinterest.
Right.
And especially like blog posts, like things like, I don't know, 10 things you need to know about X, Y, and Z. And they go to your website from that. If you can capture that traffic on your website from Pinterest, you're going to do really well. It's really, really good. Like I get much higher views on Pinterest than I do in a lot of other places. And an easy way to do it is you create the evergreen, you know, content for your lead magnet or whatever it is. And then you just use a product, like, it doesn't have to be Tailwind, but Tailwind is the one that I use, to repost that over and over again over weeks and weeks, and pin it to different boards,
Right.
so that it's getting more and more and more and more views. You do have to be consistent with it, but the content stays there for a long time. And if you tagged it right and somebody's searching for a particular thing, they will find your content and they will pin it, and then all of a sudden it'll get traction again. It's a search engine, basically, just like YouTube or Google. It's really, really good for SEO. So yeah, I think it's one of those that you don't really have to put a huge amount of effort in once you've got into the swing of things. I'm not as consistent there as I would like to be, but it can be really good for website traffic for sure.
That's brilliant. That's really, so I'm going to go and look at Tailwind, because I've never heard of that before. So that's another lesson for me. God, this is a really good episode for me to go away and start learning even more stuff. So that's brilliant. So that's really good. Another thing we talked about beforehand, that I'd like to explore now, is the new thing that you have just released, going back to the gamification world, that you've got now helping people to understand some of the mistakes they're making on
Yes.
with gamification, and you're sort of like the 7 big mistakes. But would you like to kind of explain how you're doing it? Because you're doing it quite different to what other people are. And I think it's another brilliant idea that you've got that people should be start listening about.
Yeah, so this is a lead magnet specifically for membership owners, because one of the things I do is I work with membership owners, so people who run kind of online educational memberships that are already successful, to improve them with gamification. So improve retention or whatever the thing is that they're having an issue with. Engagement tends to be a big one. And quite often people will say to me, Kimber, can you help make my membership more fun or whatever? And I'll say, well, different things, different people find different things fun. What is it that you're actually struggling with? What have you tried? And oftentimes, if gamification hasn't worked in their membership before, it will be one of these 7 things. So I thought I'll make a freebie, the 7 big mistakes that business owners make when they're gamifying their membership. And I thought, I can't just do a boring PDF. I can't do it. Like, I can't do it because nobody will read it. And so it's pointless. But I also can't do it because we're a gamification consultancy. We have to make it fun. We have to make it interesting. We have to find a different way of doing it. And so I thought, well, one of the things that I teach is about looking at all of the different personality types in your audience. We call them player types, and gamifying for them, gamifying with them in mind. And I thought most people aren't actually going to read a PDF. Like, there are certain personalities that are achiever types that will get the download, read it, implement straight away. But most people aren't like that. So I thought, how can I create something that's going to have options for different types of learners, different types of personalities? So if you want access to this information, you can get it in a number of ways. You can get it as a PDF. If you want all the tips at once and you want to just get on with it, you can totally do that. You can choose that as an option. You can also get it as a video series, where we'll release a short video every day of me talking you through the mistake, what you should be doing instead or could be doing instead, and then a question to think about when you're gamifying your membership. We do the same with an audio series. And this is my first foray into the podcast world. So it's very short, like 2 or 3 minute individual episodes. And there's only the big mistakes in it. It's private kind of podcast situation. Or you can get it as an email series. So you get a dripped email every day with the mistake, what you should be doing instead, and the question to ask yourself to consider. It's a bit of an experiment. I've not seen anyone else doing it. That doesn't mean they haven't. It just means I've not seen it. And we released it last week. I think we've had about 50 downloads so far. And it's so interesting. I love metrics. I love numbers. I love looking at the data. Obviously, gamification metrics are a big deal. And it's just been fascinating seeing like what people choose.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy when you're gamifying anything, or when you're doing any marketing actually, to assume everyone will do what you would want to do.
Yeah.
And I am always wrong. I'm always wrong. Like, I'm always wrong. And not only me, but all my clients are always wrong about what they assume their customers are going to do as well. It's fascinating. And I mean, at the moment, it's a big proportion as PDF.
Right.
But we've got like quite a few are going for the other options as well. So we've got quite a few going for video, quite a few going for audio, and quite a few going for the email drip. Now, it's only a week in. Not all of the tips have been released for most people.
Right.
In fact, not all of the audio is in the podcast. It is in the podcast world yet. So they can only access the first couple right now. So it'll be really interesting over the coming weeks and months to see how that changes and what the most popular one is, and to experiment with it a bit more. I mean, I've got lots of ideas for it at the moment, but it's very early doors.
Yeah. Well, I signed up to it yesterday when you sent through all your links as part of my research. So I'm on day one, and I've gone for video. So and I've watched day one's video, and I'm looking forward to seeing day two's tomorrow.
I love it. It is a big experiment, and it was created in line with something that I just spoke at a summit about memberships. But yeah, I'm just so excited to see how it goes. And I think if I'd have downloaded something like that myself, I probably would go back and download some of the others as well, which means that leads to retention, because repetition leads to retention, doesn't it?
Yeah, it
so
does.
That would mean that people would listen or watch or read something they've already, because it's the same thing. Like, I mean, on the video one, I think I expand a bit more because I have verbal diarrhea, but like they all contain the same content. So I'm hoping that it will actually lead to some people who really understand what they're missing out on, and either implement for themselves or come and work with us to help them implement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. And like I said, I haven't gone back yet, but I almost certainly will, because I think it's a really interesting way of doing a lead magnet. And so I'm very keen to kind of see the different elements of it. But also, you do find, you should say, different people learn in different ways, and sometimes actually reading it or seeing it in different ways helps you with that kind of getting it in your head, because you've read it and you've seen it and you've listened to it, sort of thing. So no, I think that's a brilliant, really
I
interesting
mean, an
idea.
additional thing to note, just, I mean, I don't know if this is a tip or a warning, but it's a lot of work. All right.
Yeah,
So putting together a PDF, you can do it in half a day, get the sales page up, like done. It really easy. Write one of the emails for the sequence, and then you can continue to fill it in afterwards. But with this, we've had to do a follow-up email sequence for all of them.
yeah,
We've had to do, the editing of the video, the editing of the audio. We've had to do, it was a lot of work, and it's not pristine because it is an experiment. In fact, pretty much nothing you see of mine is going to be pristine because it's always an experiment. But I like that, I think it shows that there's nothing wrong with test and learn.
yeah.
It's fine. But yeah, it is a lot of work. So if you're going to try and do something similar, just bear in mind that it's not as easy as just getting a PDF out there.
Yes, yeah, and what you just sort of touched on there is as well about I'm not saying the quality is wrong, because actually I found the video perfectly good, perfect for getting your message across. But some people I find end up getting hung up on getting everything absolutely perfect before they put something out, and actually never get it. I'm a believer in that done is better than perfect. I don't know about how you feel about that.
I have no time for it. I have no patience. Like, the thing is, I could keep playing around with everything forever. Like with the gamified goals campaign example, I could have waited until I was really perfect at Reels, but then it would have negated the point. And I also feel like if I'm telling people just get it out there and trial it, because nothing's going to go right straight away with gamification. Some of it might not work anyway. You've got to test these things, and the best way is quick and dirty. Just get on with
Yeah,
it. If I'm
yeah,
teaching that, I have to also show it. So, like, people will email me and say, you've got a spelling error in this. I'll be like, thank you so much. I had no idea, and I'll just fix it. But no, but the small proportion of people who might care about that are never going to work with me anyway, and they're not going to find gamification useful because they're going to try and make something perfect, and then they're going to find, like I have in this exact example with the 7 big mistakes, that as soon as they implement it, people will use it differently than they anticipated. It won't go exactly to plan, and their whole world will fall apart. So
yeah.
you've just got to get on with it and give it a try. Like, it's not going to be the end of the world if it goes wrong.
Yeah, 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 and interestingly, as you said earlier as well, quite often people kind of, you set out doing something with an assumption that it's going to work a particular way because that's how you think,
Mm-hmm.
or that's how you would want to consume it. But actually, your ideal client wants to do something completely different, or they take what you've said and they use it in a completely different way, and you think, where did that come from? Or you think this is going to be the popular one, and actually it's that one. And if you don't do it, as you say, don't get it out there. You can waste a lot of time trying to make something perfect that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, you've missed the thing that actually would have made all that difference.
Yeah, and like, unrealistically, I've made quite a lot of money in business. That sounds braggy, but let me finish the sentence and then it might not. By doing things that aren't perfect.
Yeah,
So, like, improving the concept and then tightening it up, making sure it looks good.
yeah,
Yeah, do you know what, like, people have come to some of my big 5 day challenges before. I used to run these big 5 day challenges about Instagram with thousands of people in them, and in some of the live videos, in one of them, I chucked I knocked my coffee over and it went all up the wall, and during the live video I had to run off and get a towel, come back in, clean the wall, and like carry talking to them, and all of them are like, this is great, because it is a big block for people. I don't want to go live. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that in marketing because I'm afraid of how it will look. And how
yeah.
it looks is I spilt my coffee over. Like, it doesn't
Doesn't
it
matter.
doesn't look like I'm an unprofessional. It
No.
happens to everyone.
Yeah, yeah, and some people probably actually probably broke the ice in some ways with some people and stuff like that. So yeah, it is, those imperfections that sometimes really make it, and even if you are recording it and you maybe cut that bit out, put it in a blooper reel or something, because they're always quite big.
Oh, they're great.
I think I was saying before we sort of started recording. that some of the most interesting things happen, or some of the interesting conversations happen for me before we actually start recording, particularly with somebody I've met before. But also bloopers. I got your name wrong first time around. We recorded this, didn't I?
Not really. You didn't get it wrong. I think you
or
just
I
wanted to
had to
double
double
check what
check
it
it,
was.
So yeah, it's important to just kind of get out there and do it, and then you can correct those sort of things. But also, don't try and hide that things go wrong. So I think that's another thing. Certainly in this sort of thing, I'm not a trained TV host or anything like that. My conversations are always full of ums and ahs and pauses, and sometimes I half complete a sentence, then go somewhere completely different. But as you say, you've got to get out there and do it. Which I think is a really important sort of thing to say. So yeah, I know I'm not going to get a job with the BBC, but at least I'm still doing this.
You shouldn't be so hard on yourself.
Oh dear. Well, I'm really conscious that you've given up a lot of your time so far. So we sort of kind of move towards the end of the episode, I think. As I prepped you beforehand, there are two things I ask every guest to really help our watch viewers and listeners with getting on with digital marketing. And one is a tip that they really should be doing. Get out there and do that. And then the other one is just don't do that. It doesn't work. It's really terrible. So let's start off with the good one. What's your good recommendation and tip to everyone?
Okay, so we've kind of alluded to this a little bit in what we've talked about today, but that's fine. So anybody listening to this, if you've done any sort of marketing or you've attended any sort of marketing training, you will have been told about the ideal customer avatar, the ICA, or the dream client avatar. And I find what a lot of people tend to do is they have that for people that they want to sell to. And then once they're into their world, it goes down the pan and they forget about it. And I think that what you need to do is you need to think, right, who's in my existing audience? Who's in my memberships, my students? Who are my clients? And what are their personality types? Because that's what we do with gamification. You can do it in marketing as well. And then just like I've done with the 7 big mistakes, tailor it to the kinds of people that you know are in your audience. So if you're running a course, it's very common and it's very this is what I see a lot is people will say, oh, there's going to be loads of achievers in my audience, so I will run competitions and I will do things that help them to finish the course. But not everyone who joins your online course is joining to learn the thing that you're teaching. Shock horror. Sorry to say that, but it's true. Some people will be there because they want to copy what you're doing. Some people will be there because they want to see how you teach. Some people will be there because they might want to work with you one-to-one and they want to see what you're like first. Some people will be there because they want to network with other people who can afford that online course. Like there's all these different reasons why they're there. And within that as well, there's all these people who like to consume content in different ways, who like to interact with content in different ways, who learn at different times of day. So you have to really think, right, okay, I've got my dream customer in. Now, how do I tailor what I'm doing to suit them more? Like, think about the 2 whys. Okay, this is marketing basics. Why am I doing this thing? What am I hoping to get out of it? And why should they care? Why should they care? Why should they not just scroll on by? They're busy. Everyone's busy. Everyone's got their own stuff going on. Why should they care? Why should they engage? Why should they invest? Just think about the 2 whys. Like, that's a really big tip from me. Gamification or marketing or in life.
Yeah. I think there's more than 2 whys at the end there, but you're absolutely right. Those whys are so important. I really like that. Okay, and what about the other side of it? The don't do this. It really doesn't work. What's your don't do it tip?
Okay, so I'll give you 2. One of them leads from what I was just saying, which is about competitions. All right. So people think gamification, I need to put a competition in. I need to add something which is going to make people compete. Everyone's motivated by different things. Everyone finds different things fun. Some people hate competitions and they hate competing with other people. So adding a competition into your free course, your free challenge, your launch on social media will engage certain types of personalities, but it is going to completely turn off others. And it is not necessarily the right thing to add in all the time. So if somebody's saying to you, oh, just add a competition in, really think about your audience. Do you have people in your audience that would prefer to be in competition, but maybe in a team collaborating with others? Like, is there a way that you can build in something that is going to engage them and motivate them that isn't going to be fight to the death to win a prize that nobody cares
Yeah.
about, you know, like
Yeah.
that's really important. And I think my other big tip, which you might not expect me to say, is you don't have to start with gamification. Oftentimes there are things you need to fix before gamification is what will work. People
Yeah.
think that it's a magic wand. They'll say, Kimba, can you add gamification? My course isn't working. And it might be like, well, if your course isn't working, you need to fix the course first and then
Yeah.
add gamification for marginal gains. Like add gamification to help those people that are struggling, because you know that once people get to the end of the course or the end of the membership or whatever it is, they get results. So you use the gamification to help more of the people complete the thing. Don't necessarily have to start with gamification. Gamification is like a cherry on the cake, I suppose, is a better phrase.
No, that's good. I like that. I like that a lot. That's brilliant. We as part of the show notes and everything, all your links will be displayed on our website and on the podcast platform, etc. So people can find it. But if there's one way to find you, what's the quickest way for them to find you?
So we're Kimba Digital everywhere. So Kimba, like Simba, but with a K, digital on pretty much all the platforms. And if you're into Facebook group, we have got a Facebook group called The Business Game. It's free. We talk about all things business and gamification, really. So do come and join me there if you'd like to join.
Well, I'm going to come and find that as well. So that's brilliant. So it just sort of like the final thing is to just say thank you so much for your time today. It's been brilliant conversation. I really enjoyed it. Learned so much. Lots for me to go away and take away. Learn about what our listeners and viewers do. I've got lots of stuff to be getting on with, and I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Robert. It's been really fun.
It's a pleasure.